in the Indian tradition, they use hair to represent these thoughts. So I don't know whether you know, but when you go to spiritual life, they take off all the hair and just leave a little tuft here. So what it means is that to go towards a new experience, a spiritual experience, you have to leave behind all the worldly thoughts. That one thread, one hair has no power, right? You don't pull it, will come out. It's no big deal. But take this whole thing and try to pull it out. Can't be done. Thoughts are like that. One thought sounds like no big deal. But the whole thing together, you try to pull, can't be done. So you really wonder, what are these thoughts? They're so insubstantial in themselves and seem yet to have so much power. You know what is their power? Thoughts create events and thoughts interpret events. Things happen because of our thoughts. And our thoughts itself tell us what happened. Our thoughts create health or ill health. If our thought is always, I want to eat the burger, I want to eat the fries, I want to eat the pastries, these are the thoughts we have, then well, we face those consequences. If our thought is, I want to exercise, I want to eat fresh green vegetables, then that is the kind of result that comes out of it. Not only do we create these things, we also interpret when a result comes, when an event happens. It is we who determine what has happened, isn't it? Someone doesn't greet me in the morning. So what do I think? I say, look, such a snobbish person. What has that done to me? I have interpreted that he hasn't greeted me and so he's such a snobbish person. I am agitated. I am sorrowful. I feel, see how badly he's treating me because he thinks no end of himself. Suppose it was the same event. Somebody didn't greet me in the morning. And I thought, oh, maybe this person is preoccupied with something, is very busy with something. Is there anything I can do to help? Maybe he has a worry, maybe I can do something to help. Then now think of what happens. Now I have a completely different experience. What created that experience? Is it the event or is it our thought about that event? So this is the power we have. We have got this power within us to not only create a life, but to determine what our life is. As Milton says, the mind is its own place. It can make a heaven out of a hell or a hell out of a heaven. Two people in exactly the same circumstances. One could claim to have a happy life and one could claim to have an unhappy life. And who are we to argue whether that life is happy or that life is unhappy? It is that particular person's own thought on it. So today we're going to, we attribute the pleasures and the sorrows and the joy and the success and the failures of our life to so many things. Some people say it's God created it. Some people say fate created it. Some people say the stars created it. Some say luck created it. Let us examine today how thoughts create it. Just thoughts. In Vedanta, as you know, this talk is based on the philosophy of Vedanta, the ancient Indian philosophy. Now, in Vedanta, the thoughts that we have are divided into two, classified into two. It's just a method of classification, but it's a very useful method of classification because it shows us what is happening and also what to do about it. So, useful classification. Vedanta divides thoughts into mind and intellect. Mind means the irrational side of our personality, our emotions, our likes and dislikes, our whims and fancies. I like doing it, I don't like doing it. All my emotions, love and anger and greed and jealousy and happiness and cheer and all my emotions, it is all the mind. It is called manas in Sanskrit. Manas, the mind. The other aspect of our thoughts, the other side of our thoughts, is our intellect. Intellect means reason, judgment, discrimination, rationality. All of this is our intellect. Right? So please listen to this classification because the rest of the talk is entirely based on understanding this. So all our thoughts are classified into two things, the mind and the intellect. I'm going to repeat. Mind means emotions, love, anger, greed, hate, jealousy. It means our likes and dislikes, our whims and fancies, all of this put together. The entire irrational part, our moods come from our mind. This is the mind. The other aspect of our personality is the intellect. Reason, judgment, discrimination, decision, all of this is the intellect. So we have a mind, we have an intellect. Now let's see what happens. When our thoughts are all mind type of thoughts, we create for ourselves a difficult life. All the difficulties of our life can be traced back to our mind. When we follow when our thoughts are intellect thoughts, we have a smooth functioning life. Now, what is the mind? It is just a repository of thoughts, right? Just these thoughts floating here and there, everywhere, all sorts of things that I feel or think, or what I like, what I don't like. When I start thinking of an object, just thinking of it. Okay, I see a new car and say, oh, nice car. Just an innocent thought. What's wrong with saying nice car? It's an innocent thought. But then that thought repeats in my head. Nice car, nice car, nice car. And this thought, nice car, becomes, I want that car. From just a thought, we have moved to desire. Because whenever we start repeating to ourselves, this is nice, 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 we form what is known as attachment. Attachment is the state where when the thing is there, you feel fine. And when it's not there, you feel something's missing, something's void, it's empty. When you feel uncomfortable, the next thought is, say, I thought it was a nice car. It's a nice car, nice car. And then one day I see that it is not parked in the place I always see it. Then I think, where is that car? It was always there. Today it's not there. Where is it gone? Where is that person who drives it? I think all these thoughts, right? Now, because I feel a little uncomfortable when the car is not there, my thought goes to, I must possess that thought, or that car. I must keep that thought, that car. And therefore, I start saying, I want the car. This happened to us in college, isn't it? You see a person, nice person, nice person, nice person. Becomes, I miss this person. Becomes, I want to obtain this person, hold this person. That's called desire. Now something happens that interrupts this. I'm not able to get that person, or somebody interrupts that person, somebody else goes off with. These interrupted thoughts become our anger. So anger is nothing but an interrupted thought, an interrupted desire. I want something and you prevent me from having it. I can agree. People always ask, how do I control anger? You cannot control anger as long as there is that underlying desire. You can control it until the desire is controlled. As long as the desire is there, as long as that desire is interrupted, we are bound to be angry. And that anger can build so much, it can lead to complete delusion. It is mad acts, absolutely mad things we can do. Don't people take up the most ridiculous actions in anger? There was a man who wrote off his entire estate to somebody because that person happened to insult him. People kill people in road rage. Mad acts when that anger builds up. This is what happens when that thought is interrupted. What happens if that thought was fulfilled? Suppose I got what I wanted. Suppose I wanted the car. I wanted to be the particular person and I got it. Then what happens? Then am I happy? The moment I get something, I want more. I got the car, I want the bigger car. I got the bigger car, I want the Learjet. I got the Learjet, I want a big jet. I want the yacht. The moment I get it, I get greed. Suppose my greed is also fulfilled. Suppose I get that also. Then what will happen? I'm envious towards those who have more. I'm arrogant towards those who have less. Suppose I see somebody who has a better car than mine. I say, yeah, he's got a rich father-in-law. I'm envious of him. Suppose I see somebody who's got a worse car than me. Okay, this got a scooter, a two-wheeler, a cycle. Oh, I'm so arrogant about it. We don't talk to such people. All these are extremely strong emotions that develop in the mind. And they force us to do things which in retrospect we can only call mad. We've all done things like that, haven't we? Got carried away with an emotion. It could be a positive emotion too. It could be love. I don't know how it is in France. But here, some boy likes some girl and she rejects him. And he just goes and throws acid on her face. mad acts. Absolutely mad acts. What do you think will happen to these people? Can their lives be good? Our thoughts create madness in what we do. We make bad choices. King Lear, in Shakespeare's great play, got very angry with his good daughter Cordelia and distributed his kingdom between the two bad daughters. And eventually, the King of England was on its streets begging. Amazing, isn't it? How with our own thoughts, we can create a complete mess of things. And how with our own thoughts, we can make everything fantastic. We have two types of thoughts. We have the mind and we have the intellect. When the mind governs our actions, we create chaos around us. When the intellect governs our actions, we have a wonderful life. The mind causes our downfall. That's why the Gita says, you are your own friend, you are your own enemy. Raise yourself by yourself. Raise yourself by yourself, for you are your own friend and you are your own enemy. So how do you raise yourself by yourself? We come to the other aspect of us. The same person has the mind and the intellect. So what do we do? We start doing something with our intellect. Now see, when we use our intellect, when you use the right form of thinking, you can create a wonderful life for yourself and for everyone else. So the Gita says that he who can withstand here the force arising from desire, he is a yogi. He is a happy man. Just to withstand that force that's sprouting from within us. If we can withstand that force, such a person is a yogi. Such a person is a happy person. The great sage Vivekananda said, conquer your mind, you've conquered the world. Herman Hesse wrote a very nice novel. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to read it. It's called Siddharth. If you haven't read it, then I recommend you read it. It's a really nice book. It talks about human life, and it shows this man, Siddharth, nothing to do with the Buddha, Siddharth, who goes through life's journey and tries to attain to spiritual growth. And he tries many things. Many years he spends struggling with spiritual growth. And then at some stage, he decides that he needs to come back into worldly life. So he comes back. And when he meets the person, he asks for a job. So when he meets the person for the interview, what can you do? Now, this boy has spent his whole life only trying to grow spiritually. So he's not technically qualified in anything. So the chap asks him, the interviewer asks him, what can you do? And he gives this brilliant answer of his, which is a very famous line. I can think, I can wait, I can fast. I can think, I can wait, I can fast. All that a human being needs. I can think with think consequences. I can understand what's happening. I have clarity of thought. I can wait for the results to come. And until they come, I can fast. I can do without it. Otherwise, on us, there is a constant pressure that I must have it now. And this I must have it now is what creates the chaos. We can ruin ourselves. We seem to take life as some kind of urgency. Like, I want it and I want it now. There's no urgency. It's okay if you get it tomorrow. It's a childish instinct in us that says, I want it and I want it now. So I can wait, I can fast. For that, you need an intellect. You need the thoughts that do that kind of thing. Now, if you use the intellect, you go to a place you'd like to reach. If you use the mind, we go to a place that we did not want to reach. It was random. Like, I got angry, I started saying something, doing something, and the consequence was what it was. But if I'm clear about what I want, and I direct my actions towards that, then I get what I want. Every time I open my mouth to speak, do I know what I'm trying to achieve out of speaking? I come into my room, my son is, I come into the house, my son is not studying, now he's watching television, the exams are so close. So my instinct, the pressure within me is to shout and say, what are you doing? Shouldn't you be studying? My intellect tells me to stop and think, what is it I want to achieve? And whatever it is I do want to achieve, will I achieve it by the action I'm about to perform? Will I? If my answer is yes, then go ahead, do it. If my answer is no, I have to restrain myself. By following what my intellect tells me to do, my life goes in a preset direction, whatever I have decided. You have to decide whether you will decide how your life goes or you want it random. You can want it random. If you want it random, please follow the mind. You will get random. But if you want something specific, if you say, I want health, but not ill health. I want success and not failure. I want a satisfying relationship, not an unsatisfying one. If you say these things, then it is important that we carefully consider what we are about to do. These are two things we all have. Everybody has that. A mind and an intellect. We all have that. Now, there's a constant tussle between these two things. The great question is, in our life, who's going to win? The mind or the intellect? Who's going to win? There's an old story about a red Indian. I don't know if you all have heard this story. There was a red Indian grandfather and his grandson, and they were sitting by the riverside. And the grandson was listening to the grandfather. And the grandfather told the grandson that each one of us have two wolves within us, a good wolf and a bad wolf. The bad wolf creates confusion and chaos in our life, and the good wolf does good stuff for our life. And these two are always fighting. For each one of us, they're always fighting. So the grandson asked his grandfather, who will win, Granddad? These two are always fighting, but who wins? And the granddad replied, the one you feed. The one you feed. So are we feeding our mind or are we feeding the intellect? How do we feed the mind? By doing whatever we feel like. the consequence of that is the mind grows stronger and stronger. Now our mind is like a very strong Muhammad Ali. It's so strong because we have fed it and fed it and fed it. But our intellect is a little weak because we have starved it. So now the big question is always, how do you feed the intellect? You feed the intellect with knowledge, with study of Vedanta. What is Vedanta? Vedanta is a study of life. It is an understanding about how things work over here. As long as we are devoid of that understanding, we will constantly make mistakes. Innocently, ignorantly, we'll constantly be doing something wrong. Suppose you want to ask yourself this question, am I doing something wrong? It's a very simple question to answer. If you have got all the results you have wanted, then you did it right. And if you did not get the results you wanted, well, we didn't do it right. There's nobody outside to tell us what is right or wrong, what is desirable or undesirable. If I've got whatever I have wanted, then I've done it right. It means I understand the cause and effect relationship. So Vedanta is like a science of life. It tells us the cause and effect relationships. What makes what happen? It's as simple as this. That if I did not know, for instance, that if you apply heat to water, it will boil. Suppose I didn't know this. I didn't have this piece of information. And my water was on the gas. And I can pray to it and say, oh, water, don't boil. I can call on the gods and say, oh God, please make sure my water doesn't boil. I can do any amount of things. But if I understand a simple causal relationship, if the water is on the burner, it will boil. I understand this. If I want boiling water, I let it continue. If I don't want boiling water, well, I just turn the gas off. Otherwise, I can talk to the water and say, oh, water, why are you boiling? I never wanted you to boil. I care for you so much. Why are you boiling? It's boiling because it's on the burner. So life is full of these causal relationships. If we don't know them, then we suffer the consequences thereof. So how do we feed the intellect? We feed it with the knowledge of life and living, the knowledge of Vedanta. So is it enough just to read it? No, it's not enough just to read it. Because we have read so much. We have been through many books, but the books are not going through us. We continue to be the same person, no matter how many books we read, no matter how many lectures we attend. So what makes that difference? Remember, it is not how many books we have read that will give us a strong intellect, but how much have I thought about what I have read? The more I have reflected on it, the more I have considered it, the more I have cogitated upon it, that knowledge becomes mine. Today you're going to spend 1 hour listening to this talk. How important is this talk going to be in your life? How useful is it going to be? It will be proportional to how much thought was put into it. If you have considered this, if you have thought about this concept of, I have a mind, I have an intellect. If I do what my mind says, I get a random life. If I do what my intellect says, then I have a smooth life, a successful life. What is the mind? It is our irrational side. It is that which makes us do random actions. What is our intellect? It is our capacity of discrimination, a capacity that I'm able to see what will happen in the future. I can't see just this moment. I must know what this moment is leading me to. When I develop this kind of discrimination, that I can understand my life, what I'm supposed to get out of my life, and what I'm supposed to do to get that thing, then my life becomes like that. It's quite simple, isn't it? So when we strengthen our intellect through the study of Vedanta, along with reflection on it, we become capable of doing what needs to be done. And when we do that, we achieve whatever is to be done. Now, what is worthy of being achieved? What is that thing which is worthy of being achieved? It's something that each one of us have to think for ourselves. In Sanskrit, there's a word for it. It's called Shreyas. Shreyas means that which is good for me and good for others. What is that thing which I can do, which will create benefit for me as well as for everyone else? And the highest goal that a human being can aspire to is the goal of self-realization, of enlightenment, where he benefits himself or herself, as well as is a beacon light for everyone else. So this is a brief talk on the power of thoughts. I'm going to briefly summarize what we did. Thoughts are the most powerful things in our life because they create our life as well as interpret our life. Okay, the event happens because of me, and what I think about that event is also my own. And based on what I think of it is my satisfaction and quotient from that event. So they're extremely powerful. Now, we started studying about the mind and intellect. This is a classification of thoughts. Mind means everything irrational, like moods and feelings and emotions and likes and dislikes. When we act as per our mood or our emotion, we can create a lot of randomness in our life. We may get things that we did not anticipate and do not want. But when we function on the intellect, we have a clear goal. We know what we want. We know what are the causal relationships that bring it out, and we're able to execute the right action. Now, since there's always this tussle between the mind and intellect, we need to strengthen the intellect so that the intellect is strong enough to counter the effect of the mind. How do we do that? Through the study of Vedanta. But study of Vedanta means reflection on its ideas. Because the more we reflect upon it, the more it becomes us. So the intellect pitches up a goal, and we need to know for ourselves what is a worthy goal for me to achieve, and then direct my actions towards that thing. So this is a very brief introduction to the power of thoughts. We have 3 more sessions coming up on different facets of Vedanta. Now we hand it back to Nadine.
Vous répondre aux questions. Alors, est-ce que vous avez des questions à poser? vous pouvez les taper dans le question-réponse. Donc, avez-vous des questions? Vous pouvez les taper. Can you expand on the relationship between desire and anger? Donc ça, this is a question in English. C'est une question en anglais qui demande est-ce qu'elle peut expliquer en profondeur la relation entre le désir et la colère?
Shall we give a 2-minute pause so that people can think of their questions and write it down?
OK. Donc, nous avons ici une première question que nous allons répondre et on vous donne 1 minute ou 2 pour pouvoir réfléchir à des questions. Donc, si vous pouvez les écrire, pas dans le chat, mais dans les questions-réponses. OK, donc nous avons quelques questions. We have a couple of questions. So, can you see them? OK. Donc, alors on va... OK, we can start by answering the first question. So, la première question, donc, c'est si elle pouvait élaborer sur la relation entre le désir et la colère.
So the first question is, can you expand on the relationship between desire and anger? So desire is the root of anger.
Le
When we
désir
desire,
est à la base de la colère.
I can hear you, Nadine, this time.
Yes, sorry. So Mahesh, can you put me back as an interpreter?
Yes, you're back as an interpreter.
So what is the relationship between desire and anger? Desire is the cause, anger is the effect. When I want something and anything interrupts my getting that thing, the deflected thought currents, I no longer am thinking of what I want, but what is interrupting it, then that is what I experience as anger. So let's say Tom likes Jane and another suitor, Henry, comes and talks to Jane. Then what Tom will experience is called anger, because now she's gone and she's talking to Henry, right? So any interrupted desire. Now the interesting thing is that I can get angry with the object of my desire as well. Now what did I say? Tom likes Jane, but Jane doesn't like Tom. So Tom can get angry with Jane. So very object of your desire, like Othello. Othello loved Desdemona, but he went and killed her because he suspected her. So the very object of desire can be interrupting that thing. Then you get very angry with it. It's in everything. Suppose you want toast in a particular way and it doesn't come in the exact color or that exact crispness that you like, that toast can go flying. Ali has a follow-up question. Is anger only triggered by desire? Yes, it is only triggered by desire, but interrupted desire, obviously. The other way you can get angry because of desire is if you have a lot of interrupted desire. Then you generally be angry with everybody and everything. Anything can get you off. So yes, desire is the cause and anger is the effect. But you have to have the desire interrupted for this effect to take place.
So Janki, can you take the English question so that then I can bring her back when it's the French?
English questions, okay.
On Q&A.
Joyce. Thank you, Miriel. Sorry if I'm getting these pronunciations wrong. Joyce, can our thoughts stemming from the mind affect the life of others? For instance, if a mother always worried about her son because he seems to be making the wrong decisions, will this affect the son's life negatively? In this case, in the example that you have given, it will affect his life negatively only if she takes some action based on it. For instance, she goes on nagging him, or she goes on telling her worries to other people. That way, she can make it negative, but not the thought by itself. She has to take an action on it, or some kind of action, even if it's a sneer or a raised eyebrow. She has to take some action on it. So can our thoughts stemming from the mind affect the life of others? Definitely, because we go on taking actions based on them. So somebody, he's very upset and then he drives fast. He'll put his own life into danger and he puts everybody else's life into danger. So the thoughts, our thoughts can affect others in terms of an event because we are acting on it. But how affected they will be depends on their thoughts. Because it's not just the event that affects us, it is what we think about the event that affects us. Lucy, how to navigate between intellect and mind cannot be only rational. Lucy, it is not that you have to navigate between the mind and the intellect. It is that the intellect is like the banks of a river. Okay, so the river is the flow of the mind, but the intellect has to direct it. If it doesn't direct it, it will create chaos. It doesn't mean that you don't have a mind. It means that your mind is directed by the intellect. So let us say, for instance, you're very worried. Let us take Joyce's example. She's very worried. Let us say, on argument's sake, a mother is very worried that her son is taking wrong decisions. You're very worried about this. Now, there's nothing wrong as far as that goes. But what action you take based on that worry should be determined by the intellect. Number one. Number two, if you're very worried about it, it's not helping the situation. All that will happen is that you get a heart attack. The mother will get a heart attack because she's worrying and worrying and worrying. So it shouldn't be that I'm worrying so much that I can't sleep at night. If I can't put my head on the pillow and be out in 5 seconds, then something's wrong in what I'm doing. So you don't navigate between the mind and intellect, you direct the mind. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'll get Nadine on back.
We finished all the English ones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I couldn't. Okay. Alors, une question de Sophie. Quand on dit de faire confiance à son instinct, on entend de faire confiance à son intellect, mais on place dans la voix du cœur. So she's saying that when you trust sometimes your instinct, So we are also trusting our intellect. And where do we place the path of the heart as we are trusting more our intellect?
Okay, I'll start the
Repeat that.
interpretation.
I'm
Now.
not clear. What is she talking about? The instinct or the heart?
So first she says, quand on dit de faire, when someone says you follow your instinct, okay, does that mean we are following our intellect? And then she says, where is the path of the heart in this?
Okay. So a lot of people
Alors,
have
Sophie.
to follow your gut, follow your instinct.
On dit beaucoup dans la vie, suivre ton instinct, suivre ce que ton cœur dit.
I'm adding you, I'm putting you back into the translation room. One moment.
There is a lot of belief on these two things, following your instinct and following your gut, following your heart. Many people have this problem that should we not follow our instinct? The answer to that is you can't follow your instinct all the time, right? You have to know when is the time and when is not the time. This discrimination is a job of the intellect. You can't blindly follow any instinct that comes, nor can you blindly reject every instinct. So that's the role of the intellect, to determine when to follow it and when not to follow it. Not every instinct can be followed, and not every instinct can be rejected. Same thing with the heart. The heart may be telling you very good things, in which case you must follow them. The heart can also be telling you very odd things, in which case you should not be following. But how will you know? It is your capacity of discrimination that will decide, is this the time to follow it or is this not the time to follow it? So it's not that you're blindly rejecting everything the mind says, but you're choosing what to do and what not to do.
Okay, you can ask the next question.
So there's a question from Eugenie. Is the intellect good by nature? Is it helping us towards good actions for us and the others?
The
I'll put you
intellect
back
is
in the
neither good
translation
nor
room.
bad.
One moment, Janki.
The intellect is not good and bad. It is the mind which is good and bad. Good desires means desires that are like helpful to others. You want to help others. You want to be of service. You are loving towards others. You'd like to do something for somebody. These are good desires. And then there are bad desires, where I'm most important and, I don't care what happens to you and everything is all about me. And I can lie and steal and cheat or whatever, as long as I get my way. So there are good desires, there are bad desires. But both of them are of the mind. Intellect is your capacity of discrimination. To be able to choose correctly, to be able to choose wisely. It is a discrimination. It is your capacity to tell what is the consequences of what you're doing. It's the rational side of you. It doesn't have intent of good and bad. Good and bad is of the mind. So the intellect decides what is the appropriate action, what is the sensible action. There's no good and bad involved. It chooses what makes good sense. When the intellect pitches up a higher goal in life and directs the actions to that higher goal, it achieves the highest good. But if the intellect itself is not a very good intellect, if the discrimination is poor, then it directs actions towards not a very good end. I mean, not a very good end means not such a high end, not such a noble end. So good and bad, selfish, unselfish is of the mind. Intellect is more goal-oriented. It's a discrimination of what is an appropriate thing to do in the circumstance. For instance, you may want to help somebody. That's a good desire, right? But if your intellect doesn't analyze that desire and decide what is the best way to help the person, you could end up damaging that person. One of the best examples of that has to be the scene in Les Miserables, where the bishop, is very hospitable to the convict, and the convict then steals his silver candlesticks. You're probably familiar with the book. And then the convict steals his candlesticks and runs away. And unfortunately, he's caught by the police and brought back to the bishop. And then the bishop says to him, to the police people who brought the convict back, "What have you done? Why did you catch this man? I had gifted the candlesticks to him." And this convict, for the first time in his life, met somebody like the bishop. And he just falls down, breaks down to see that now he's free. And the bishop takes those candlesticks and hands it to the convict and talks about how life is about giving, not about taking. And this convict now becomes a great, he's completely transformed by the bishop and eventually becomes a great benefactor to mankind. Now, that kind of giving, which has benefited not only that convict, but so many thousands of people, that is called the discrimination of the intellect. So you intend to do good is your mind, but that you actually do good, that's your intellect. A lot of people intend to do good, but the end result is not always good.
Alors, there is a question, how to react to major events like tsunami, que vous perdez, and like you lose someone that is very dear to you in such situations that are very catastrophic. How do you react to this?
It's very, very painful to lose somebody suddenly for apparently no cause. And really, there is that kind of pain to deal with is best done with as precaution rather than cure. It is, when you're in that situation, it becomes very difficult. But if you're not yet in that situation, it is a good thing to learn that this world means change. And everything in our life is subject to this change. We have to be prepared. And it's erratic change. It can take place anytime. So if you're already fortified with that understanding of life, then losing it will always be difficult. But your intellect will allow you to not go under it. Pain is a fact of life, but it is our intellect which provides the armor to not be crushed by that pain. If we go under the situation, we get crushed by it. The mind tends to go under it. But the intellect is able to keep itself and the mind afloat. So pain there is, but the intellect will be able to deal with that pain, not deny that pain. This is an important thing. It's not denial of the pain, but is to ensure that the pain does not wreck the rest of my life. So you feel the pain, whatever, I can't help it. The pain is there. But you don't allow it to destroy the rest of your life. I know this lady who had 2 sons. And unfortunately, her elder son passed away. And she went into so much depression and she was so miserable about it that she was not able to bring up her second son. So what is the use of that? It's important that we do feel the pain, but the rest of our life does not get wrecked with it. And the way to deal with it is always precaution, to learn Vedanta before these situations come on us so that we are well fortified to deal with them. And if we are in that situation, then you learn Vedanta so that the intellect does get strengthened and we are able to deal with them.
Okay, so there is a question here. Again, how to train the intellect from Leila, how to train it.
Leila, we have
One
to do
moment.
our studies. There are Vedanta classes which teach us the laws of life. So
Il y a des
please
cours
attend the
pour...
classes. But attending the classes, not all there is to it. You have to think and think and think about these things. That's why, you have questions. So questions are always encouraged in Vedanta, because if you think, you will have a question. So have questions, fight with the knowledge, don't believe the knowledge. Find out whether it's true or false. Is it making sense, not making sense? Is it applicable in all circumstances? Are there some circumstances where it's not applicable? So you think it all through properly. And then that knowledge is digested. And then we act by that knowledge.
From Catherine, how to avoid conflict between thought and desire.
How to avoid conflict?
Yes, between the thought and the desire. The battle between the thought and the desire.
The battle will always be there, Catherine. What we have to do is strengthen the intellect so that the intellect wins this battle. Never will it happen that there is no battle between our mind and intellect. That never happens to anyone. But if the intellect is strong, it will be able to direct it. And the more we learn to direct it, the less troublesome the battle is. If we take a few strong decisions initially, the road just becomes smoother later on.
So there's a question of Marivonne, how to find the good balance between the mind and the intellect. If we sometimes feel a unbalance, how to find the good harmonious balance between both?
You don't balance it. It is always the intellect that's directing the mind. When it's like
C'est
bringing
toujours
up a child.
l'intellect.
Like bringing up a child. You don't balance power between the father and the son, right? The child and the parent. But the parent does not deny everything the child says. That's the discrimination. The child says, I want an ice cream. You say, sure, please have one. Doesn't have an ice cream now as a child, when is he going to have it? Or sometime you may have a cold. So you say, no, you can't have an ice cream today. So it is not you're balancing the power. It is always the intellect who's in charge, but the intellect allows certain things and does not allow certain things based on some good reason. Just like a good parent brings up a child.
I think we have used up the time. It's 2:45, so we'll have the last.
Okay. Can we have
So
one
I'll
last
just share the
question?
PPT. Okay, one question. Okay.
Okay, donc la dernière question. The mind is always focused on the present. I mean, the present moment. That's how we get the reactions, the immediate reactions. How can we get the intellect to control these emotions that spur on the moment itself?
Yeah, that is the training of the intellect, right?
C'est ça Anne, c'est ça la façon d'entraîner le.
The stronger the intellect is, the quicker it comes into action. A very good intellect can anticipate. A lower quality intellect at the time of action takes control. Even lower quality intellect will take it after the action. And a very bad intellect will not know after the result also. So imagine that you bought some dress. Okay, so the moment you bought it, you bought something on the street. So the moment you bought it, you check the buttons, buttons, were they tight enough, whatever. All right, so that's an intellect that anticipates. A lower quality intellect that as the button is falling, it manages to catch it. Just as it is falling, just before it's falling, it catches it. Even lower intellect, it has fallen on the ground, now it goes and picks it up. And the worst quality intellect is the button is gone and he doesn't know. So different grades. The more we can anticipate, the better. You already know when you're about to meet somebody that this is a very irritating person and I always get irritated when I'm with this person. Anticipate and deal accordingly. So the best is to anticipate. If I don't save money today, if I don't invest, tomorrow I will have financial trouble. So I'm going to save and invest today. Anticipate. If I don't exercise today, I'll have health problems tomorrow. So I'm going to exercise today. Anticipate. We don't have to wait till the doctor says exercise, right? We already know exercise is good for our bodies. So we have to avoid having to decide at that moment. Better to anticipate.
Pas pu répondre à toutes les questions.
Okay, so any more questions, Nadine?
No, we'll have to put in, and there are some questions, but I think
We can take them next time also.
we can take them next time. Okay.
So I will show the new forthcoming event slide now.
Okay.
Okay.
So can they hear me?
One moment, just one moment.
Okay.
Nadine, you can just announce the events. I mean,
Yeah, okay. Okay, can they hear me?
yes, we can hear you.
Donc, nous allons avoir 3 autres dimanches qui vont être à 8 heures du matin à Paris. So the 3 other Sundays will be at 8 a.m. Paris time. Et nous avons aussi une retraite en France avec Dr. Janki Santoke qui sera le 1er avril jusqu'au 5 avril. Et nous avons une conférence qui sera donnée à Paris également le 5 avril. Donc, nous avons tout un programme où nous essayons un petit peu de faire connaître cette philosophie à un large public en Europe et surtout essayer aussi d'aller au-delà de la barrière et de l'avoir en français pour que tout le monde puisse comprendre. On est désolé, on n'a pas pu répondre à toutes vos questions, mais on va répondre la prochaine fois, on va les garder, on va pouvoir répondre la prochaine fois. Nous vous remercions pour votre fidélité et votre présence. Nous remercions toute l'équipe de Dr. Janki Santoke, Mahesh, and all the back team. Bharat, thank you very much for making this webinar possible. So we'll meet you next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.